Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Aquí tienen el horario para hoy, miércoles el 14 de agosto. Learning target for today, to review both regular and irregular simple past tense grammar to talk about past actions such as your weekend. Warm-up question, reverting back to last class's warm-up. ¿Qué hiciste el fin de semana pasado? What did you do last weekend? You have your answers already written from last warm-up. Share what you did this past weekend with 5 classmates. And as you ask them that question and listen to their response, annotate just one thing in Espanol that each of those 5 classmates did this past weekend. For example, I shared with you last class what I did last weekend. Here's how you would write it in el pretérito from the third person perspective. Not the way that I say it in the first person, but how you hear it or how you would annotate it from a third person perspective. Señor Kerry pasó tiempo con su familia, vio un partido de los Gigantes con su hijo y tomaron el ferry para llegar a San Francisco. So make sure that you hear it in the first person or first person singular, the yo form, or the first person plural, the nosotros form, but you're going to write it down. And again, just one thing they did from the third person perspective. We'll go over what was due last class just to make sure there aren't any logistical or technical questions, as many of you probably didn't do this assignment until around midnight the day that it was due. So just want to make sure that everybody's doing okay. Again, you can watch the video there for guided instructions. You can take a look at the PowerPoint there for guided examples and the rubric to guide you through how to complete the assignment. And then again, remember to hit the reply button. And then once you do so, upload, whether it's a Google slide, the link to it, make sure that I have permission, or better yet, don't require permission to begin with to view your Google slide, a video link, PowerPoint file, a picture of your poster, if you did a poster, however you did your assignment, you're uploading it here by hitting the reply button and then post reply. We'll go over the notes again of the regular verbs in the preterite from the PowerPoint here. If you weren't here last class, you've definitely gone through it. We'll do a quick review of those notes, running back the notes that we began to fill out in this notes sheet. Not sure why that's working. We'll fix that. And then we're going to complete some of the practice activities from our Senderos textbook. We're going to do exercise 3, which is using the past tense conjugations of ir and ser here. This is on page 4, página 4 del libro de texto. So fill in each blank with one of those 5 forms of ir or ser, and I'll actually have you go a step further. Which of those 2 verbs, ir or ser, is being used? As the instructions say, indicate the infinitive of the verb that's being used in each of these 15 sentences. So 2 steps. Which verb is being used, ir or ser, write it at the end of the sentence, and then which form should we use given the verb agent, the speaker that's indicated in the sentence. That's number 3. We're going to skip number 4. 5 is pretty straightforward. You're carrying over the notes here that are in the margin on page 5 and conjugating each of these 3 verbs in the yo form, in the ella form, and in the nosotros form. And the key here is that these are what we call stem changing verbs, right? So you can see the verb conducir, which is the verb to drive. The C changes to a J when we conjugate it. For hacer, the A changes to an I in the stem. And the verb saber is in the top chart there, the top group, where the A changes to a U. Just to remind you from last year how verbs have a stem change in the preterite and what that stem change looks like. So refer to that chart there for exercise 5. 6, you're changing the verbs provided from the present to the past. So for example, this is the verb tener in the yo form. Tengo que ayudar mi padre? No, we want to say I had to, right? Changing it from the present to the past. Tener in the yo form would be tuve. Tuve que ayudar a mi padre. Number 2, la maestra repite la pregunta. That's present. We want to change repite to the past. The I in repetir, not on this list here. The I in repetir changes to I. I don't believe I see that in the list. But anyway, it would be la maestra repitió, R-I-P-I-T-I-O. Number 3, the verb ir, not in that chart either. The verb ir is irregular. Fuiste al cine con tu amigo. Alright, that's exercise 6. Change the verb from the present to the past. And I think that handout that I gave you guys, the preterite note sheet, will have a lot of those irregular verbs, so you can refer to that. And perhaps we'll fill in that information as well at the very beginning of class. Exercise 7 will be the last thing that we do. Use the parts of speech, put them in chronological order. Put the elements of the sentence in chronological order so that they read correctly. Most sentences are going to begin with the subject. So for number 1, the subject is yo. Usually in Spanish, the verb would follow the subject. Yo fui. Yo fui al dentista la semana pasada. Yo fui al dentista la semana pasada. To say I went to the dentist last week would be the way to go about exercise 7. That will be the last activity that we do together to practice. And then for homework for next class, exercise 13. From the textbook, exercise 13 is your homework for next class. It says in the description to describe a dream you had recently, or invent one, or maybe not a recent dream, but a memorable dream. Me personally, I cannot for the life of me remember my dreams. So if you don't want to describe a dream, what you can do instead, and I think this is what many of you will do, is kind of circle back to where we started today's class and where we last left off and describe your weekend. Right? Because you already got 3 things from last warm-up that you did this past weekend. So add 3 more and come up with 6 and record a video of you describing your weekend. And I would appreciate it if you would include, as it says here in the description, a minimum of 2 irregular verbs and give me at least 1 picture, right? 1 picture, kind of like how you guys were sharing pictures of your weekend last class. 1 picture that summarizes best what you guys did. So video recording, include a picture, a minimum of, 2 irregular verbs? 2 irregular verbs in the preterite, and the recording could be as long or as short as it needs to be, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, up to you, and then submit that in Canvas underneath the assignment heading. Ejercicio 13, escribir, hablar, lo que hice el fin de semana pasado. You guys don't need to submit anything written. I don't need to see it. I need to hear it. So orally present it as a video, and that will be terrific. That is due on Friday. You guys have a quiz on the preterite next week. And so everything that we're doing today to get you ready for that quiz.